Hey everyone, this is Xeminan with the Illustrious Cards and Games One Piece Thursday Night Locals commentary, and this was recorded last Thursday. This is round 3. We have Bernie versus Scruff. Don't worry about the leader names on the bottom; they didn't get changed from the previous round. But Scruff is playing Rob Lucci, set 7 Rob Lucci, and Bernie is actually playing Black Yellow Luffy. In this spot, I actually lost to Bernie earlier on in the tournament. I can't remember if it was round 1 or round 2, but I did lose to Bernie on his Black Yellow Luffy. So playing really well last Thursday. Scruff's gonna go first with the Spandam, searching for a Kaku, so he gets a 2K in his hand. That's all you can ask for on your 1-down turn, is to start with the Spandam. Then Bernie is gonna go second. Black Yellow Luffy is a deck that most people would consider has a very good matchup into Rob Lucci, specifically because of the blocker Sabos, where you're able to stop your board from getting KO'd, and Rob Lucci's whole MO is trying to KO your board, right? So, but a pretty strong turn 1 from Bernie with the Garp Searcher, searching for one of the 3 brothers, as well as playing out Charlotte Flampe, taking a life and drawing a card, because we know Bernie wants to get down to 0 life to activate the Luffy leader effect. Now on Scruff's 3-down turn, he's actually going to play Tempest Kick just to draw a card there. So not at 10 cards in the trash yet, right? So you don't need to minus anything. Rob Lucci swinging 6 at life, milling away a Tempest Kick and a Gecko Moria, so that stings a little bit for Scruff that he loses the Gecko on the mill that turn, but Bernie does take the 6k swing at life, or the 7k swing at life, down to 2 life here on his 4-down turn already. He decides to play Kuzan to draw a card and then pass the turn. So the early turns for Bernie aren't too tough, because you just kind of play what's in your hand. You want to get up to that 8-down turn. You want to get up to that 10-down turn. That's when the fun begins with Luffy. Also took 1 life away from the Lucci on the swing from the start from Bernie's Luffy swinging at the leader. He took a life there. So now on Scruff's turn, plays out Sabo, draws 2, trashes 2, and protects his board from being KO'd. Sets to swing 5 in with the Rob Lucci leader, trashing 2 more cards, minusing 1 onto the Kuzan. Bernie will counter out of that swing, doesn't want to lose the life early, and at this point Scruff should be very close to 10 cards in the trash. Going to be important once he hits that, if he has any more Tempest Kicks in hands. There are 2 Tempest Kicks already in the trash though, so gotta wonder how many more Tempest Kick Scruff will be able to see in this game. Looking to count now, presumably 1 more Lucci swing would get him to 10 in the trash if he's not there already. Bernie trying to decide on this turn what he wants to swing with, what he wants to play. It will be a 7k swing at life with Kuzan, -4 onto the Sabo, so Sabo's now 1 cost, but he did just play Sabo, so Sabo is protected from KOs. Scruff will take the life there. Hiyori from Bernie taking that top life, going to decide, does he want to put something back on the top there? He does. You would presume it was one of the 3 brothers. I believe it was a 5 cost there, and it is the Luffy. So playing it out for his last 2 Don, gaining 2,000 power on his leader and getting that 5 cost Luffy ready for next turn. That's going to be a 7k swing at life. Scruff has a lot of cards in hand, so he can get out of it. That was a 2k and 1k, one of those being a Rebecca. So a couple of Rebeccas are in the trash for Scruff already. Depending on how many Rebeccas he runs, going to be tough to have some of that recursion access later on in the game if they're all in the trash. So now it is Scruff's turn, and Bernie is one life away from activating his leader effect. So this is a tough turn. Where do you decide to try to swing at the life? Do you just leave the life alone and force him to take his life himself? That's gonna be an Ice Age from Scruff, -5 onto the starter deck Luffy, so he's a 0 cost now. You can play a Brook if you want. Tempest Kick -3 onto Kuzan, so it's a 1 cost and a 0 cost. So if Scruff has the Rob Lucci character, the 4 costs in his hand, he can KO both Kuzan and Luffy on this turn. Counting out the cards in trash to make sure that he had 10 in trash for that Tempest Kick to activate onto Kuzan, and he definitely did. So now there is the Rob Lucci KOing Kuzan and Luffy. That's a really strong turn for Scruff there, getting rid of essentially the only 2 attackers. Like, sure, you could put 3 Don on Garp to try to swing 5, but you don't really want to do that. So getting rid of the Luffy and Kuzan, really important for Scruff with that, sending 3 cards back to the bottom of his deck. And it's also important too, because Kuzan, if he stayed on the field, would have access to that cost reduction, and Sabo is no longer protecting Scruff's board from being KO'd. So Rob Lucci is going to swing 5 at life. Looks like playing or trashing 2 and -1 on the Garp, but now it's up to Bernie. So he has 1 life left on this turn. I believe he's on his 8 Don turn, so it's a turn. I always feel like, as a Black Yellow Luffy player, 8 Don is the toughest turn of the game, because you can't both when you're on 8 or 9 Don, you can't both activate your leader effect and play Gecko Moria, right? You have to wait until you get to 10 to attach 2 to the leader, and then have 8 for Gecko. So it's just gonna be a finger pistol KOing the character on Scruff's and trashing the top 2 cards of your deck as well. So that's an adjustment Black Yellow Luffy decks have started making. It's just going for the raw KO power of finger pistol, as well as you can get lucky and get one of your baby 3 brothers characters can get put into the trash for a Gecko Moria later on. But for now, Luffy just swings 5 towards Lucci. Scruff counting out the cards in his discard, seeing what he'll have access to, and will counter with a Spandine. And Spandine is Lucci's best friend, as you can go Rebecca into Spandine into Lucci to get a blocker and a KO onto the board at the same time. But a second finger pistol takes care of Lucci. And on that turn, if you don't want to play Gecko, I guess you could play 2 finger pistols at 4 Don each to KO 2 characters, killing the Sabo and Lucci. Now Scruff just up with his leader and a Spandam on his side, so he'll attach, looks like 2 Don to the Lucci, swinging 7 at life. Bernie decides to look at his hands if he wants. It has a trigger. You can actually see that Bernie has a Gecko Moria in his hand, as well as some of the baby brothers. He will not trigger it. It was an Ice Age. You don't really care about killing a Spandam, 3 costs or less, so keep the Ice Age in hand. And then that's going to be a 7k swing, I believe, at life. But Bernie has such a big hand size that he's got to be able to get out of this, or he loses the game. So he's kind of deciding which cards I would like to counter to have access to with my Gecko Moria the next turn. There is the Charlotte Flampe for 2k added on, and that's 8, adding the baby Luffy to the deck. So Scruff does not establish a bigger board on this turn, just tries to go for game by attaching all his Don to Lucci and Spandam on the turn, but does not get out of it. So now at 10 Don and a Gecko Moria in hand, Bernie is fully on the line to start this Luffy leader cycle. First goes for the Garp into Spandam for the KO. She doesn't have any characters on his field. And with 10 Don, like I said, you can attach 2 to the leader, trash a card from your hand, the Black Yellow Luffy leader effect, trash a card from your hand, and then place 2 5-cost brothers. That's Sabo, Luffy, and Ace. 2 of those 5-cost brothers on your life face up. And then with Gecko Moria, with your 8 remaining Don, you can play 2 of the little brothers, the 2-cost versions of it. So he's going to get a baby Luffy and a baby Sabo on this turn. Turn those babies into the 5 costs, and when you update those little baby versions into the Big Brother forms. You gain 2k power for your leader until the start of your next turn. So really, really big deal there that he gains both brothers there, Luffy and Sabo, gains a blocker and protection from KO. So Scruff is in a really tough spot because now it's a 9k on the board and a blocker, and he doesn't have any characters there beside, it's just the leader Lucci on his end. So even if he wanted to swing, if he found a way to swing lethal, Sabo can just block it, and there's no rush cards for Scruff to take. So Bernie, will swing 11 at leader, bring Lucci down to 2 life remaining. And this is the point where Bernie has successfully been able to set up the cycle. He's going to look into his trash to see what other brothers he has available in the following turns, because as you're at 0 life every turn, you can do this effect. So looks like Lucci swing for 5, but it will fail, obviously, since the Luffy is a 9k power leader right now. Sabo just decides to block this turn, so maybe he was swinging 5 at Garp, actually, which might have made a little more sense. That's why he had to block with the Sabo, the 6k block into the 5k swing. But Scruff does have access to all 10 Don on this turn. The unfortunate part, like we mentioned, is he cannot KO anything because of Sabo's effect. If he has a trash character, say a 6-cost Brook that can trash a character from the field, or the 9-cost Kaido is also another character that can trash a 7-cost character, 7-cost or lower. That would be a way to get rid of the Gecko Moria swing, or potentially if you want to trash the Sabo. But definitely this is an important turn for Scruff to play out. Gonna decide, go with Old Faithful, playing Gecko Moria for 8 of his 10 Don, having access to the Rebecca and Spandon Lucci is out there. So it's going to be Rebecca will get Spandon, that's for sure. Spandam is the choice, so Scruff is going to activate Spandam first as the searcher, looking for a CP card. Looks like he fails there. Yeah, that's a Jack, a Gecko, and Helmeppo. All 3 are not CP characters. But Rebecca will play Spandon, where you can put 3 CP characters back from your trash to the bottom of your deck, and then you can play a 4-cost CP character, also known as Rob Lucci. And now this doesn't get as much value as Scruff would want, because you can't KO anything on Bernie's end of the board, but you are just getting Lucci on the field. You're trying to just get another attacker for the next turn, if Bernie even allows it to go that way, because Bernie could just swing with his characters towards Scruff's board and essentially negate all of Scruff's last turn. He spent all that time setting up Lucci, but it is, rested there, so you might just go into a force you to block with your Rebecca. But now it's Bernie's turn again, feeling in a really good spot, even with 0 life. Just the ability that he can have every turn to reset his to at least get to life on the field is really strong. So does he want to attack with Garp first into the Spandam, just getting it off the field? Garp isn't probably going to go for a 5k swing at leader this turn, especially because he has 2 life left and there's a Rebecca blocker on the field. So I think Garp might be better spent on attacking the Spandam, but we'll use the 3 Brothers event to look at the top 5 cards to find either a Sabo, Luffy, or Ace in the deck and put it in their hands. It will be the baby Sabo that they're choosing. Bernie has to look through the trash, make sure that you have a Luffy or a Sabo, a 5-cost Sabo available, because that would be the worst if you search for a Sabo but then you don't have the bigger body version of it. Looks like a difficult decision for Bernie, asking how many cards in hand. Appears to be 4 cards in hand for Scruff. So at this point, do you decide to go for game, or do you clear the board? Bernie will activate the Luffy effect, which is, trash a life, trash an imaginary life, in this case, to gain 2k power. So that is an 8k Luffy into the 6k Lucci. Now, Scruff definitely cannot afford to protect that card because you have such a finite amount of cards in hand. You can't waste 2 cards protecting Lucci, because then he can just swing the Gecko Moria into the Lucci right after it, and it'll go down anyway. So you might as well just let the Lucci go down and keep that counter in your hand. Bernie still has 9 Don on this turn. All he's done so far as a part of resources is use the Three Brothers Searcher. So still has 9 Don available. If you attach 2 Don, then that means you have 7 left. You can't play Gecko, but I think Bernie's in a position where he doesn't really need to play Gecko. He did just search for a baby Sabo, so if you just use the leader effect to put a Sabo back in life, it'll be good. Oh, and Garp actually is going to swing 6 at Spandine, it looks like, who is unless he kind of thinking. No, so he does go 6 at life. Okay, I saw him look at it, put his fingers on the Spandine card, so I thought maybe he was going to do it. But no, he did go 6 at life. That was blocked with the Who's Who 2k counter. Now it's 7 from Sabo, but the finger pistol activates and KOs Sabo. That's actually not as helpful as you would think, because unknowingly Scruff doesn't, or I guess Scruff did see he picked up a baby Sabo off the searcher. So you kind of gave Bernie access to his Sabo, but he trashes the Ice Age to activate Luffy leader. Now you can go get 2 brothers back from your trash and hand. Actually, is from both your hand and your trash. It's gonna be the Sabo first, then the Luffy. And that's because you're going to draw with this. So kind of unfortunate for Scruff that the trigger essentially activated Sabo for Bernie on this turn, where he was not going to have access to it. So he gets to draw 2, trash 2, puts another Sabo in the trash, which is really good for the following turns. Gains 2,000 power from that swing, swings 9 at life, and now Scruff is down to no life, just the Spandine, a Spandam, his Gecko Moria, and it's a 7k leader on the other side with 1 blocker. So you know that Gecko can get through, right? Depending on how many cards in hand Bernie has, he would be able to get that 1 life and put the Luffy's 3 cards in hand, put the Luffy at the bottom of the deck. So with these swings, he has to figure out how to end the game here. That's going to be a big swing at life, -1 onto the 5-cost Luffy. Remember, that top card up there is not in play. It's just face up. That is his life, that Luffy. So that's the 1 life that he has. I believe it was a 9k swing, if I'm counting correctly. 9,000 power into the 7,000 power Luffy leader. He's deciding to take the life or not. There's only 3 cards in hand. That means if you have a 2k and a 1k, it would cost you 2 of your 3 cards. And if you have 3 1ks, it would cost you your entire hand. We see a Flampe is one of the 2 cards. So Bernie definitely having to decide here, knowing that the Gecko Moria swing is looming. After this one, does he counter out of it? And no, he actually takes the life on this turn, going down to 0, but you have 1 block left. And Brook gets to trash Sabo, but Bernie had 2 2Ks in hand. He had 2 2Ks and the Sabo 1K. So Scruff, if Bernie had any counterless in his hand, if he found a way to catch him without counter, that 6-cost Brook could have won him the game. That was a really smart way of bluffing with 6 Don left. You swing 9 with Lucci, have 6 Don left over to trash the Sabo when he takes that life. But great play from Scruff, but even better job by Bernie keeping his counter in hand. So thank you everybody for watching this, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you can see all the rounds from our locals, and we'll be back with the next round.